3 days ago, you couldn't stop thinking about it, the thing you saved up for, the one you refreshed the page for at 2 in the morning. Then it arrived and you held it, and within a week it just sat there. Ordinary, you've done this, everyone has. Here's the part that feels wrong but is true. Your brain was never chasing the thing, it was chasing the wanting. A book called The Molecule of More by Lieberman and Michael E traces that whole trick to one chemical, and the strangest part is what it does, the instant you finally win. It goes quiet. You've been taught this chemical is about pleasure. It isn't. In the early 1990s, a neuroscientist named Wolfram Schultz was recording from single dopamine cells in a monkey's brain, one neuron at a time, while the monkey got a sudden squirt of juice. The cells burst. Reward, you'd think, pleasure, but then Schultz added a light that switched on just before the juice. And once the monkey learned the light meant juice was coming, something eerie happened. The dopamine stopped firing for the juice. It fired for the light instead. Sit with that? The reward hadn't changed. The juice was just as sweet, but the burst had jumped backward in time, off the having and onto the first hint that having was on its way. It gets stranger. When the light came on and the juice arrived exactly on schedule, expected, the neurons said nothing. A predicted reward is met with silence. And when the light promised juice and Schultz withheld it, the cells didn't just go quiet. They dropped below their resting rate, as if something had been stolen. So dopamine isn't the chemistry of reward. It's the chemistry of the gap, the distance between what you have and what you could have next. It measures the space between here and there, which means the moment there becomes here, the moment the thing is finally yours, the molecule has nothing left to say. That flat feeling 3 days after you got what you wanted isn't you being ungrateful. It's a neuron going quiet, right on schedule. But if dopamine falls silent on a sure thing, what lights it up? The answer is the reason you can't put your phone down. In 2003, in that same lab, Christopher Fiorillo, Philippe Tobler, and Wolfram Schultz ran a version of the experiment with a gamble built in. Sometimes the signal meant juice was certain, sometimes it meant nothing was coming, and sometimes it meant a coin flip. A 50-50 maybe? They watched what the dopamine did in the gap between the signal and the outcome. On a sure thing, the signal fired and the system settled. But on the 50-50, the dopamine didn't settle. It climbed, a slow rising swell that peaked at the exact point of maximum uncertainty. The moment the odds were an even maybe, not the best odds, the least certain ones. Say that back in human terms. Your brain's desire signal runs hottest, not when a reward is guaranteed, and not when it's hopeless, but when it might happen. This is the literal neuroscience of wanting what you can't quite have. It's the crush who's hard to read pulling harder than the one who's sure. It's the notification that might be something. It's the slot machine, the cart you fill and never check out. The maybe that grips you tighter than any yes, which sets up the real puzzle. If your brain is built to crave the maybe, then getting the thing should feel like a win. So why does it so often feel like nothing at all? Here's where it turns. For decades, everyone assumed wanting and liking were the same event. You want the cake because you like the cake? Then, two researchers, Kent Berridge and Terry Robinson, pried them apart. They took rats, wiped out almost all of their dopamine, and gave them sugar. Common sense says a rat with no dopamine won't enjoy the sugar. Common sense is wrong. The rats' faces still lit up with the same pleasure reactions to the sweetness. The liking was completely intact. What vanished was the wanting. They no longer went after the food. They wouldn't cross the cage for it. A rat that still enjoyed sugar would sit and starve beside it because the drive to get up and take it was simply gone. Flip the experiment, and it's just as unsettling. Boost dopamine in that same reward region and the wanting spikes, but the liking doesn't move. You can build a craving for something that brings no pleasure at all. That's the crack at the center of desire. Wanting and liking are two different systems, and dopamine runs only the first. Go back to 1954 to one of the eeriest results in the history of neuroscience. James Olds and Peter Milner wired a rat so it could send a tiny pulse into its own reward circuit by pressing a lever. The rat pressed it. Then it pressed it again. It pressed that lever thousands of times an hour, one rat, around 7,500 presses in half a day, ignoring food, ignoring water, until it collapsed. For 50 years, that was called the pleasure center. But if Berridge is right, the rat wasn't drowning in pleasure. It was trapped in wanting, pressing a lever for a hit of almost that never once arrived is enough. Which raises a question about your own life. Of the things you chase hardest, how many do you truly enjoy, and how many just keep the lever warm? By now, dopamine might sound like a villain. It isn't, and this is the objection worth meeting head-on. That same molecule of more is the reason humans build. The restlessness that won't let you sit still in a finished moment is the same restlessness that drew the map, ran the experiment, wrote the song, imagined a life better than the one in front of you. Lieberman and Long argued this forward-leaning chemical sits behind nearly everything we call progress. You would not want it gone. But it comes with a lie baked in. Dopamine is a terrible guide to happiness because it speaks in the language of the future. And the future is a place you can never actually arrive. It keeps promising that the next thing, the raise, the house, the person, the number, will be the one that finally settles you. Your brain does have a second set of chemicals for that settling, the here and now molecules that let you feel the warmth of what you already hold instead of the pull of what you don't. The trouble is dopamine talks louder, and it never stops pointing forward. You can watch the whole trap in a single study. In 1978, psychologists led by Philip Brickman tracked people who had won large sums in the lottery. Surely, permanent joy. But within months, the winners were no happier than people who hadn't won at all. And stranger still, they took measurably less pleasure from ordinary things. The morning coffee, the small talk, the everyday warmth. Once your brain has tasted the giant anticipated win, the quiet pleasures it was built to enjoy go dim. Getting the huge thing you wanted can quietly cost you the small things you already had. So, here's what the wanting was hiding. You can't win this game by getting more, because the molecule that makes you want is designed to fall silent the instant you succeed, and then aim you at the next thing on the horizon. The chase has no finish line built into it. That isn't a flaw in you. It's the job description of a single chemical. But there's a move the rats never had. You can notice the handoff, you can catch the exact moment the wanting delivers the thing and starts pointing past it, and choose for once to stay, to let the other system speak, to actually have what you have. So look at whatever is in your hands right now. The thing you once refreshed the page for at 2 in the morning. The person, the place, the life you ached for, and then stopped seeing. And ask the one question that outsmarts the molecule, the thing you want so badly today, will you still want it once it's yours, or is the wanting the only part that was ever real?